Pittsburgh Public School presents Excellence for All, a district that is student-focused, well-managed, and innovative.
Welcome to Excellence for All. On today's show, we will tell you more about a new African American literature course that began this fall and also provide you with an overview of the African American history course available in the district. As you will see on today's show, both of these courses are designed to help raise awareness about the importance of African American contributions throughout history. The new literature course is offered to all high school seniors interested in the subject. Seniors may take the new course or an advanced placement English course or the standard 12th grade English, both of which include the works by African American authors. The course is one of several efforts the school district has taken in recent years to make its curriculum more rigorous, relevant, and culturally inclusive. The course is also a strong companion to the district's African American history class that was implemented 2 years ago. That's where we begin our show at Pittsburgh Oliver High School, where teacher Ken Smith tells us more about the African American history course offered at the school. This upper-level college preparatory course will enable students to examine people of African descent in the United States as active agents in history. Through a variety of primary sources and secondary sources, students will analyze, interpret, discuss, and compose their own insightful ways of explaining, comprehending, and producing African American history. The course will also help students develop critical thinking skills and historical understanding of African American history as an integral part of the United States history.
The course is important for students because it gives them an opportunity to look at African American history in a different way. One of the focuses of it involves historiography, and that's a fancy word for saying looking at various points of view that deals with all elements of African American history. And some key questions that help really speak to what those different points of view might be. One of them could be as simple as when and where African American history begins, because there are historical arguments that deal with the focus being with ancient Egypt, and there are others that deal with the focus being with West Africa. And so students get a chance to look at both of those views along with slavery and draw some conclusions themselves so they can see what might be a more appropriate time to look at where African American history begins, especially given the time constraints that you have with any history. So the real nice part, I think, for this course is that it gives students, it does two things. Clearly it focuses in an academic level, looking at the content and the broad content behind African American history, and you can't deal with everything, and that's a given. But the other part of it, though, is to afford students various skill sets where they can see that historiography, perspectives, and points of view will give students not only certain knowledge behind it, but a much greater understanding as to what's involved with African American history and, frankly, any history. This course is really a capstone or keystone to the district's move toward looking at various aspects of historiography, perspectives, points of view, have students look at those, examine them, compare and contrast them, discuss, write about them, and then draw some conclusions based on a number of different aspects of history. And African American history for us is just a major part of that. So that's why this course in my mind is extremely important. The fact that they can look at African American history in a different way that relates to how African Americans are active agents in the history of the United States and in the history of African Americans, that they're not victims, but they are change agents among themselves. They not only had an impact among freedom and equality of black folks, but frankly had a major impact on the history of this country living up to its principles. So that's a major factor that I think is important. The life skills factor that I think is important, that students who are able to study African American history in the way that we present it, namely looking at different points of view, namely looking at different historians who speak to a certain area, a certain content piece that is different, and yet they find truths in all of those. Those are real key areas, and that being a life skill, that's something that students can go away not only with learning how to examine different documents and different perspectives and different points of view in a history class, but that's a skill that I would like for them to take away that they can use in any walk of life. So that's a real key piece that I think. So as academic and life skills together that make up the most of what I'd like to see students come away with taking this course.
You learn stuff you never seen before back then, what happened, what's going on. You learn a lot of that stuff, and when you learn it, you'll get interested in it.
Be ready to learn a lot of things. It's a good class. You learn a lot about history.
I feel more proud when I walk around and I see everybody, and I know that we accomplished something in this country, for this country, and it's just amazing to think about.
Now let's take a look at a special video presentation that tells you more about the new African American Literature course offered this year.
By connecting African American literature to history, students are better able to hear silenced voices.
African American Literature, a unique 12th grade course, is now available to Pittsburgh Public Schools students as an alternative to English 4. Providing new perspectives, new insights, the core literary works chosen for the course align with the major eras and frameworks students learn about in the district's African American History course.
I'm curious about what William Attaway will say about the struggles of the African Americans in the 1940s who endured the conditions of the mills and fought for their labor rights on the picket lines.
I'm looking forward to James Baldwin showing me that the civil rights era wasn't just a struggle for legal rights. It was also an era when writers fought for the right to imagine what freedom looked and sounded like.
I wonder how female authors in the African American community write about their lives and about gender equality.
I'm really interested in what it meant to be an indentured servant or bond servant. I mean, how do you take race out of slavery? I guess Toni Morrison creates a story of people just living and not really hating each other. But was that really possible?
Learning about African American success stories gives a more positive look at African American life. We have it more in our curriculum now than ever before, but learning about a successful black people in an all-black town in the West during that time is definitely worth reading about.
I never realized that August Wilson wrote plays about the issues of different time periods and the way his characters on the Hill tried to survive them. I know that there's an Aunt Esther in everyone's neighborhood.
It's exciting to know that this course ends in the present time with the writings and speeches of President Obama. This makes total sense to come full circle.
The purpose of this course really is to provide more of an enlightening, enriching, and equipping experience for students. When we began looking at what we wanted to do when we were given the charge of creating an African American literature course, it was to attach to the timeline set up for the African American history course. So we had to really think about what experiences do students already have with African American literature and what new experiences can we provide. So the idea of it being enriching was to give experiences to writers that they have not experienced yet, to give experience to reading writers and looking at artistic pieces that aren't already in the curriculum.
By connecting important African American literature to history, this rigorous upper-level course gives students a new and engaging lens through which to view the lives and experiences of African Americans, past and present. The course is designed to provide in-depth teaching and learning that includes the historical and contemporary themes that contribute to the story of our country. In addition to the core literary works, a customized anthology will provide extended reading experiences that encourage students to document and analyze the unofficial histories presented in the stories. College-level essay writing and portfolio development also are integral components of this course.
I come from it from the university perspective, and so oftentimes when I have students in my classes, they rarely, if ever, have ever been exposed to African American literature. So as a professor, I think to myself, well, you know, what would I like students to have? And most of the time, I would like them to have the core canonical works, whether it's someone like Phyllis Wheatley or writings by Langston Hughes and others. But what I found in working with the high schools is that they are actually exposed to some of these things already in their other English courses. So that sort of changed my perspective, and I was looking to find works that were representative of historical periods and literary movements, but were sort of a little bit off the beaten path to give them a very different perspective on African American literature. One of the things I absolutely hope for is that they understand the diversity, not only of experience, that African American literature brings to an understanding of African Americans in America, instead of sort of seeing African Americans as a monolith, one people who think the same thing and do the same things. And I think one of the things that literature does for all of humanity and human life is sort of give you a sense of the diversity of that life. And I think, I hope, and I'm sure it's going to happen, that this curriculum is going to sort of bring that to the students. So not a monolith, but very diverse and dynamic people in terms of expression in their politics and the things they like to do.
This college preparatory course will provide a number of interesting features, including multiple viewing experiences to introduce and support the course readings, digital exploration of historically Black colleges and universities, historical Black newspapers, community connections with the August Wilson Center for African American Culture located in downtown Pittsburgh. Additionally, the literature will connect to major areas and frameworks studied in the district's companion African American history course.
My hope with this unit is that students will come away with an understanding of what it means to work together for equality within many different categories, whether it's gender or race. And Black feminism has a very unique quality to it that you don't necessarily see within other feminist voices, and that's this view of the world that's very egalitarian. It's, especially within Alice Walker's work, we see this voice that says, all people are equal. It's not just about Black women, it's about all people. And there's a beautiful message in a lot of the work that these authors are sharing with us.
What are all of these other stories that we don't get to hear, that while some of them may be fictional, they are representative of a real time? And I think those stories are important. It's impossible to talk about all of African American culture in one class. But I think what this course provides is the opportunity to look at some specific time periods that we haven't studied yet, to look at sort of how things have progressed. The start of the course starts with a speech from then Senator Barack Obama, and it's an address to Knox College. And he says, what will be your impact on society? How will you make a place in the world? So we look at how all of these things have happened in our world through multiple perspectives, through different time periods, through different genres. And at the end, we ask students, what is your place and how do you impact the world? So I think we have to look at giving students experiences that speak to how we impact the world. As a nation, not just as African Americans. How do we as responsible citizens impact our world? So at the end of the day, I hope students really take away the ideas of that there isn't one type of African American literature. There isn't one type of literature in general, that literature helps us to explore the world around us.
Education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today.
The new African American Literature course is offered at Pittsburgh Laney High School. Erin Smith teaches the course and tells more about what students learn in the class and what she hopes they will take away from their lessons.
So it starts off with, how did African Americans get here? And then the evolution of what happened with slavery, as one of the students pointed out, and learning that the first African American here wasn't a slave. There were indentured servants, and there were white slaves, and there were women slaves, and that's how this country was founded. And the evolution became racial slavery. And so we read a couple neo-slave narratives about slavery and looked at that perspective, and really allowed us to dig deeper into how slavery affected the country. Not whites, not blacks, but how it affected the country. And then we moved now into Flying West in that the chronological order of African Americans who, yes, we've learned about the Harlem Renaissance, and we learned about the jazz era of the 1920s and African Americans that migrated north after slavery. But what happened to those that went out west and built their homes with their bare hands and built their fences with their bare hands and made their food and bartered with their with their neighbors, and so that's where the course has taken us now. So it's definitely been a ride, and it's been a great adventure because the curriculum allows us to go there. I want them to have a broader perspective about race, because it's something that is a taboo subject, even in a school where we're 70% black and 30% white. It's still a taboo subject, and people feel uncomfortable talking about it. And so I want my students to be color conscious, and I feel like that's the only way we can really get there all together, is to be conscious about color and stop being this colorblind society that so many people thought was the right way to be. So that's one part of it. And so we've taken this sort of parallel course to the curriculum of having courageous conversations and keeping journals about it and really digging in and finding out what makes us feel uncomfortable and why, and being able to talk about it in an academic way so that we're all contributing to each other's life journey. As a teacher, I want them to become well-rounded. I know they're not going to remember the dates and everything that happened because that's just unrealistic, but I want them to, in 15 years, to remember something that we learned or something that one of their peers said that really affected them, and they'll be sitting in a college class and the light bulb, hey, we learned about that, and I can tell you about indentured servitude, or I can tell you about the perspective of slave ownership and slave from reading Kindred, or I can tell you about the westward expansion of African Americans instead of the northern migration. So that's the second part of it, is really that well-rounded education you get through literature.
Everybody, black, white, Spanish, I don't care who you are, everybody can benefit from an African American history course.
I don't want it more to be about race. I want it to be about a broader perspective of learning.
I knew what people have been telling me wasn't the same. I knew the truth now.
The creation of curriculum that is challenging, engaging, and culturally relevant reinforces the district's belief that all children can learn at high levels. Through new courses such as African American history and African American literature, the district intends to accelerate the achievement of African American students and eliminate the disparity that exists between African American and white students. We will now take a look at another special video presentation that focuses on the state of African American youth in the Pittsburgh Public Schools, from the students' perspectives.
I want to be an artist and show the world my drawings.
I would like to be an after-school program counselor.
I want to be a photographer and go to the University of Pittsburgh.
I want to be a teacher.
I want to be a pediatrician to take care of small children.
After high school, I want to run my father's landscaping and painting business.
I want to own my own business, publishing books about life experiences.
I want to be a successful black man.
A disproportionate number of the district's African American students are not achieving at grade level, which makes the elimination of the academic disparity between African American and white students one of the priorities of the Pittsburgh Public Schools. To assist in this endeavor, district staff interviewed 70 students, all African American, in grades 3 through 12 from 13 schools across the district to learn about their experiences as Pittsburgh Public School students. To protect the identities of our students, the children you are about to see are student actors who will share our students' perspectives.
We thought it would be important to hear from our students because we think their voices are the most compelling. It's one thing for adults to go in front of other adults and tell them what we think needs to change and why it's important. But when they hear it from the voices of our students, we think that that's when people really sit up and take notice.
I need a great teacher to start off my day. Have warm-ups. Keep us on track. Not start one lesson and start another one. Be organized.
I need teachers to encourage, to show interest in my work.
To teach me what I need to know and to teach me what is going to be on the PSSAs.
To be successful, I'd say I need more challenging work in my classrooms.
I would like teachers to help more.
I need more interesting classes with a better explanation from my teacher.
I need my teachers to stay on me when I do bad things and then tell me not to do them.
I think teachers should be caring teachers. and that love to teach, not just in it for the money.
I need teachers to know that I like to learn.
The district is committed to maintaining high expectations for all students and eliminating persistent disparities among students reflected by race, ethnicities, language, or disability. That's why on January 20th, 2010, the Board of Directors for the Pittsburgh Public Schools adopted the district's equity and learning policy.
Well, the district is engaged in the work of racial equity, and that includes several things. One of the things that happened this past year, of course, was putting a board policy in place around equity issues, and that equity in learning was a value that we hold in the Pittsburgh Public Schools. A key piece of that work is to be able to talk about racial issues, and we see in the national agenda that race is still a very difficult topic for people to talk about in rational and ways where everyone gets respected and we can still have the conversation. And so we believe it's important for us to learn to have those conversations, be able to talk about issues of disparity in achievement, disparity in identification for special education, gifted and talented, discipline, and be able as adults to approach that in a way where we respect each other.
I wish that everybody would be treated the same.
Some students are treated differently when it comes to punishments.
I think everyone's treated the same.
Most of the kids in my class that get kicked out are black students.
Teachers, treat students equally.
Well, if you're not a straight A student, you don't tend to get as much attention.
Not everyone's treated the same. Smarter students tend to get a bigger break since teachers act more fair to them.
On May 12, 2006, Superintendent Mark Roosevelt released Excellence for All, a 4-year roadmap outlining priority areas of focus for improving the academic performance of all students in the Pittsburgh Public Schools. While establishing expectations for improving the achievement of all students, Excellence for All is also focused on the need to accelerate the learning of African American students by targeting incremental gains of 5 percentage points per year compared to other peers.
We found overwhelmingly grades 3 to 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 12, that all students said, "Teach me." All students want to learn.
My struggles are reading and math.
I struggle in reading and science, but I always ask for help.
Yeah, I think I need to move from a D to a C and score at least a basic on my PSSA test.
Sometimes when I read aloud in class, people laugh at me for not being able to pronounce the words.
I sometimes find it hard to concentrate. I have struggles paying attention and following along.
Well, I struggle with time management. If I'm not organized, I can't get anything done.
Accelerating the achievement of African American students is key to the district's ambition of excellence for all. In order to ensure student achievement, we will continue to provide core academic programs and implement curriculum that is challenging, engaging, and culturally inclusive.
So at the core of all of our core curriculum is the goal of supporting all students through culturally responsive strategies and actual curriculum. So for example, the history of African Americans, while we have a separate standalone course now in the 12th grade that is African American history, and also a separate standalone course that is African American literature, the history and literature of African Americans is built in and woven in from grade 6 on. So it's not as if students have to wait and make it to 12th grade to finally see themselves in curriculum. They actually see themselves in curriculum, and not just African Americans, but Native American, Chicano American, Asian American. All of these pieces are built into our core curriculums in terms of literature and history in particular, starting from the early grades and going all the way through high school. So part of the big goal is that kids see themselves, their history, their culture in curriculum, in what teachers teach them every day from a very early age.
On November 18, 2009, the Board of Education voted to accept a $40 million grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to support implementation of work detailed in the district's Empowering Effective Teachers Plan. Pittsburgh Public Schools was the only school district to receive a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that included the teaching and learning environment as a strategic priority.
Well, I have to give credit to John Tarka, frankly. John was the one that brought the teaching and learning environment piece as a key part of the work forward. And at first, you know, I'm thinking, well, okay, maybe that's important and perhaps we need to do something there. But as we move further down the road, I see that not only do I agree he was right, it does need to be a key part of our work, but I also see that nationally there's more interest in this topic. And so not only was he right when he was describing what we needed here in Pittsburgh, I believe that there's also a there's support nationally around the topic of teaching and learning. And as I see plans for other districts on other outside of Pennsylvania, I'm seeing that teaching and learning environment issue beginning to be embedded in the work.
And students agree. In addition to their struggles, we heard from students about the importance of the school environment.
I need teachers to quiet kids so I will not be disturbed.
I need an environment that doesn't have a lot of talking. I need the teacher to have complete control over the students.
Well, the mainstream classes are really noisy.
I need quiet classrooms because there's some students that are always in my class screaming and yelling, and it's not very good.
We learned a lot from our students as part of the State of African American Students in the Pittsburgh Public Schools. Additional student insight showed students would like to see additional teaching strategies in the classroom, a number would like more challenging work, and students would like to feel that teachers care.
But more interesting is who students identify as their heroes.
My heroes would probably have to be my parents. They're both very smart, they have good careers, and they're really educated.
My hero is my sister. She is really focused on school. She has started looking at colleges because she's getting to graduate really soon.
Nathaniel in the gifted program. I want to be in that program. He's a good reader and knows how to do math.
My hero would be my mother. She inspires me to keep going.
One of my heroes is the rapper Jay-Z because he started off with nothing in the projects and now he has several successful businesses.
My cousin. She gets really good grades and is working on getting accepted to Yale.
One of my heroes is my guidance counselor, Mr. Rivers.
My hero is my sister. She's the first person in my family to go to college.
One of my heroes is my aunt. She had it tough growing up, but I admire people who want something out of life.
My hero is Martin Luther King Jr. He made a difference, and I want to make a difference too.
My hero is Barack Obama, the first black president of the United States, because he proves anything is possible.
Students in the Pittsburgh Public Schools now have greater possibilities than ever before. Thanks to the Pittsburgh Promise, a community commitment to help students and families plan, prepare, and pay for continuing education after high school, money is no longer a barrier to higher education. We learned that most students had knowledge of the Pittsburgh Promise, and the majority have college aspirations or want to work in a field that requires additional education after high school.
I would love to be an engineer because I enjoy working on things.
I want to be a chef because I love to cook.
After high school, I plan to attend Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, and major in education. I want to be a teacher, specifically a college professor. I want to be an architect. I like the idea of planning and living in something that I've created.
I learned and researched on how to be an industrial engineer, so I think I'd like to be that.
These student voices will help guide us as we work to prepare all children to achieve academic excellence and strength of character, so that every student has the opportunity to succeed in all aspects of life. We hope that you take these students' voices to heart. Please reflect on their words and faces and realize that you, teachers, administrators, family, community, and civic leaders, all play an important role in helping all of our students achieve excellence for all.
In an effort to help all students achieve excellence for all and stay on the pathways to the promise, the district is offering these African American courses to help raise awareness about the importance of African American contributions to modern literature and history. All students are welcome to take advantage of these courses, and we hope by taking these courses, students will broaden their learning experience as they also get a chance to learn some very important facts about the African American experience and the many contributions they continue to make in America. I'm your host, Ebony Pugh.